negative effect does it have on the man?
You know, I wish I had the study with me because I don't remember the end results, but that they don't have as much patience. They are more tired. They feel more stressed out. They have higher incidence of medical issues. It's exactly the same results that women have as far as their ability to have a relationship with their family and have caring relationships for other people, and the stress level is substantially higher for polygamous men than monogamous.
When my father was a young man, when his family was young, when his first family was young, he held his first 3 children on his knee and told them stories, and he was a good dad. I never knew that man. By the time I came along, he had so many wives and children, he was angry and stressed all the time. Everybody needed him.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't fulfill the emotional, financial, any kind of needs, time-wise, of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And he had none for his children. So he became a very angry, I'd call him a lieutenant or a sergeant that was just forcing everybody in control all the time. He never listened. You listened to him. He didn't care what was going on. He knew all the answers before he knew the questions. We were all afraid of him. But there's no way he ever enjoyed his wives and his children.
Mm-mm.
He was overwhelmed by the neediness that he had created. And I can imagine that that goes along with Islamic polygamy as well.
I think so.
Why not?
Yeah. How can you possibly stretch yourself so thin and be happy?
Right.
Yeah.
And in my growing up in Utah, I seldom saw a polygamous man over 45 years old that worked anymore. He quit working and spent all his time chasing skirts and ordering his family around, telling them how to work and get more money. And I'm serious.
Yeah. And the women are all on welfare.
Exactly.
See, that's another thing that people in this country don't understand. That these women are all mooching off the system. So
There's very few exceptions.
Very few exceptions. And so when we say, oh, polygamy is all a lifestyle choice, understand that we as Americans, it's our tax dollars that pay for their lifestyle choice.
Did you see that last report that came out that Ed sent out?
Mm-mm.
It'll boggle your mind how much money has gone into Colorado cities and government funds. And on the income tax paper thing from Hilldale, it says the Hilldale income is 0. Nobody works, and the government funds are mind-boggling.
Interesting.
Both sides of the border, those towns take the larger percentage of the government funds for kids in both states, in their state, each one in both states.
But the kids don't go to school.
No, it's not educated. Educated children cause trouble, darling. Get your
So the kids don't go to school, so all this money is supposed to be going toward educating them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then they wonder why Warren Jeffs is building castles and palaces, and Willie was able to buy one, and yet these people still worship Warren. Mm-hmm. They built a stadium at Yearning for Zion Ranch and put a 30-foot statue in it of Warren to worship, and he's reaching his hand out to a little girl. That is just plain sick.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. I don't really understand why, when we put a criminal in prison, he is allowed to run his criminal enterprise from prison.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't. We know that. We know they do that. And yet they're in prison. Why are they allowed to contact? Why are they allowed? They say, what's the right to have all these phone calls? Why?
Why? Because what he's asking these people to do for him is criminal.
Yeah. It is criminal.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we do that. That absolutely is nuts.
Well, it's
the assumption
the freedom of religion trumps everything else.
That's not religion. That's so sick.
Yeah, freedom of religion trumps human rights.
Where does religion get the right to take the human rights away? That's sick. Something's wrong with that.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be America. We are supposed to have human rights.
Land of the free.
Founded this country, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Can we get brave enough to stand up and say, hey, you cannot steal our children, our women, our rights in the name of religion? That's over.
Well, it's part of the
Are we going to do burn at the stake next week and that's religion? Jump the virgin in the volcano because that's religion?
Which is the reason that polygamy remained illegal when the Reynolds versus the government back in the 1800s, that it remained illegal because there was this whole argument about religious freedom. And a letter was pulled out that was written by Thomas Jefferson that basically said that human rights must take precedence over, that religious freedom is the freedom to believe as you choose, but not to act as you choose.
Right.
And that if we allowed people to act as they choose in the name of religion, that a man would become law unto himself.
That's correct, and they do.
And so what has happened is that very slowly, this is being allowed and allowed and allowed, and literally, you know, it very well could be. Yeah.
We are enslaving people in the name of religion. We're molesting children in the name of religion. We're killing people in the name of religion. In America.
In America.
In America. And we want to look across the pond and criticize another country, and we don't want to look in our own backyard.
Yeah.
And the reality is that every family, any family, can get into financial trouble and need little assistance. But there should be a legal limit on how many children one man spawns that the government's willing to support.
But you know how that works? They just change the birth certificate, so you don't know that one man is spawning all those children.
And then they pretend that they can't do DNA testing because it costs too much. And I watched television last night, and I saw that you can buy in the supermarket a DNA test kit for $129. An individual can walk in and buy it. DNA testing is a whole lot cheaper than this welfare program fraud we've got going in every direction by breeding women and controlling them through their children.
Yeah.
And it isn't just polygamists that do that. We have gang members that do that. We have people in the ghettos where a guy's got 8 baby mamas. And these girls, that's the problem. I know it. That's the problem. And if these girls want to leave, they just beat them up and they take their welfare check and they sell drugs on the street and nobody knows which lady they're staying with, they don't know where they're at. And we accept that because they're single mothers. We need DNA testing, and then, if the guy has more children than that, destroy his kingdom, destroy wherever he laundered his money, wherever he put his money through, chase it down and dissolve it and make him pay for his offspring, and perhaps castrate him so he's shooting blanks.
Well,
the right to breed indiscriminately without responsibility should not be a right.
Well, and that's one of my big things. I am so tired of women being held responsible for men's behavior.
Right. The right to breed indiscriminately for a man in this nation is, oh well.
Oh, he's just a man.
Well, if his sexual desires cause that much havoc, he should get rid of them permanently. We should not be forced as taxpayers to bail this guy out, let alone make him a rich cult leader so he can enslave people and molest little children.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, and I'm really serious about this, I don't believe that polygamy will stop until we quit financing it.
I agree.
Crime is not going to stop as long as it pays.
Right.
And I've had this argument with the people.
Crime will not stop as long as
there's
money in it.
So much power and money in enslaving people. This is a form of human trafficking. I don't care. It is. And there's so much money in it, and you can tell by following the money trail in every single one of these polygamous cults, the guy at the top is in hog heaven. And he's collecting all the money from fleecing his sheep and the government. We called it bleeding the beast. I'm surprised the beast hasn't lived definitely.
Yeah, or the beast is tired of being blood.
I think the beast is getting real closely in trouble being blood. We have a giveaway nation. America.
But part of the problem of the beast is the government, and the problem is that the people feed the beast.
Exactly, but the government makes us feed the beast. I don't want my tax dollars going into some polygamous compound.
Yeah.
I don't want my tax dollars going into some people that live in the ghetto where they're holding a girl hostage and taking her welfare check, and I'm paying for that kid, and that's why he's doing this, because she's having kids.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather see the taxes cut, and DNA testing, and something else cut if it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, the only thing with Colorado City now that is a blessing, if you will, is that now Warren has dictated that only 15 men can fire all the children. Because, you know, a woman's worth is dependent on how many children she has. So if a woman wants a baby, the man has to take his wife to one of these sanctioned men and watch his wife have sex with one of the sanctioned men.
In the name of the prophet.
In the name of the prophet. In the name of God. Because only 15 men are worthy of God's seed.
Okay, so Warren the prophet's doing this in the name of God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
He's
so
getting his twisted jollies off of.
what he's telling those husbands is if I can't have sex, you can't have it. He's punishing.
Yeah.
He's actually punishing.
Mm-hmm.
And why?
And one of the other things I find frightening. Now, a lot of the children are no longer with their real parents. They've been traded around so much that most of the kids aren't even living with their real parents. And children are only allowed to be bathed by their father. What kind of environment is that creating? If these are little girls who are being bathed by men who aren't even their dads.
This is not good.
This is Warren Jeff's fancy land.
And we're allowing him to make these mandates from prison and these people carry him out.
Yep.
He should have absolutely no phone rights.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? That seems so irrational to say. He has the right. He doesn't have the right.
Mm-mm.
He doesn't have the right to
When
continue
he
to
raped those
destroy
little
them.
girls, he lost his right to be controlled.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. He really did.
Yeah.
And to allow him to keep manipulating his sheep, and they are sheep, they're following fear because they think he's God, is so wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they'd gather up his entire flock, put him in a huge theater, and make them watch and listen to the entire court case, the tapes and everything else, so they'd know it wasn't a lie.
But they know what they don't believe in.
I know they don't.
Because they've seen that I've been there and I've talked to these people and they think that Hollywood made the whole thing up.
Because Warren told me.
Yeah.
Warren told me.
They think that he is being imprisoned for polygamy.
Because he's a martyr to the
He's
cause.
a martyr for the cause.
Like my father was. My father went to jail as a martyr. Took the holiness of polygamy. Of course, the police report, he was unlawful cohabitation and child bride and never mind.
Yes.
You know.
Because in their mind it's perfectly okay to be having sex with a 12-year-old.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Yeah. So, as the only mouthpiece of God, he couldn't possibly be doing anything wrong. So they are completely blind to who he really is.
The thing is, I realize they've been indoctrinated from birth, and I realize they're really in slavery because of their ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't make it justifiable not to have the law step in and protect them.
Absolutely. And the law,
the
law does try.
You know, well,
Some laws.
to some degree.
But, you know, here's how politics are.
If they cut off Warren's privileges to run polygamous college, if they enforce DNA testing and force the men, all men, had to be financially responsible for the children they spawn, polygamy would shrink so fast, you wouldn't know what happened.
Yeah.
And that's what should be done.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what should be done.
And it's not like outside of Colorado City that the county and that the state doesn't know what's going on. They know darn well that.
But they're totally aware.
Yeah.
They're totally aware.
And they know they're not single moms because they're spiritually married. Those men that are married should be held responsible for it. But they're getting welfare checks as single mothers.
Right.
Well, they're getting their cake and eating it too. They're saying, well, I'm a single mom and these are my kids, but I'm also married.
Tom Green had it set up where he had several trailer houses, his little kingdom, out there, and he called it Green Haven out there in Joab County, next to the Gandy Ranch, close to it.
I'd like to know how many of those little communities there are.
And he said,
And they get their own mouthpiece.
and they got money for a daycare center over here in one of the trailer houses with all of his kids, okay? Then over here on the other side of Green Haven, which is also his trailer houses, and the same kids, they ran them over here, all of them, and got money for a second daycare center. So another wife, I'm serious. And the Kingstons did that on several levels. And nobody follows the money trail.
Right.
They just tax the worker more.
Yeah.
Nobody follows the money trail. And it's so easy.
So it's not the bleeding of the beast, it's the bleeding of the American people.
It certainly is. And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and now there's thousands of them, and it's bigger.
Yeah.
And people say, well, you can't cut off the welfare of this family in needs. I'm not saying that. I'm saying put a legal limit on how many kids you're going to support the one man spawn.
Right.
And make that guy support his kids or make him have no more kids.
But the problem is that, it needs to be DNA because so many of those kids have different last names.
Exactly.
And there are so many of those kids in Colorado State don't even know who their dad is.
Well, my mother's children were all spawned by my father. And we all had different last names and phony birth certificates so that dad wouldn't get checked on.
Right.
So they need the DNA testing, not the names.
Right.
The names don't count. Only the DNA testing counts. And then these guys, when they've got an enterprise that they laundered their money or their whatever through that they got through their little, come on, these guys could have all sorts of branches and everything else. Destroy it. Tear it apart, sell it, give it to the women to take care of the kids.
Right.
And that would be the end of polygamy.
Right. It's not about hiding from polygamy anymore.
No.
Because nobody's been put away for polygamy forever.
No.
It's not about polygamy anymore. They don't want a paper trail because they don't want to be financially responsible for all the kids that they have.
And it's really not about polygamy, it's about human slavery and the prisons of the mind they're creating to create the polygamy, to fleece the sheep, to get the money. It is a cult, and it's destructive to everyone in it. Everyone in it.
And they don't know
and to our nation, and to the children, and to the future of this country.
Yeah.
And that's pathetic.
And it's religion, so it's allowed.
I realize it's hiding under the cloak of religion. I think it's criminal. I think it's absolutely organized crime, hiding under the cloak of religion.
Right. I'm completely inclined to agree. So part of the problem is that because religious freedom has so much power in this country, and it's not losing power, it's gaining power. Because once the Christian Coalition aligned with the Republican Party, I don't really get into politics, but when the Christian Coalition came together as a coalition, it started having a tremendous amount of control over the federal government. So we no longer have separation of church and state. And because now religion has so much control, people won't go and dismantle this stuff because it's freedom of religion. Because religion now trumps human rights.
I think that they don't understand that this is organized crime.
Yeah.
Hiding under the cloak of religion.
Right.
I really think they don't understand.
But now it's so politically correct not to talk about religion, not to make religion look bad, that they're not going to go in and do anything about it.
We have been suffering from a very recent illness. It's called political correctness. We would rather say or do anything not to hurt anybody's feelings than discuss the truth, fix it, or save people's lives.
Right.
That is not
You might step on somebody's toes.
It is better to step on somebody's toes than to destroy people's lives and let women and children going into trafficking and slavery and et cetera. Because that's what's happening.
Right.
The thing is that we're being silly. We're being silly to take offense over a word. Let's take offense over an action, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
To take offense over a word and get bent out of shape over that and ignore an action that destroys a life, is that maturity? That's 6th or 7th grade.
Yeah.
Can't we get past that?
Yeah.
We need to grow up. Take offense over a word.
Yeah.
If we took offense over a word, all of us, every woman that I know would have died of, oh, you hurt my feelings. Because women usually take a lot of nonsense from their men folks.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They don't do that, do they?
No,
They don't.
women have been putting up with
Right.
being offended for thousands of years.
Right, and they don't go out and destroy somebody's life over it.
Yes.
Yet we can't say something that might offend
Man-made religion.
man-made religion.
Yeah.
Never mind the words and look at the actions. The actions speak louder than the words ever will. And we're refusing to see that.
Yeah.
You can say, well, you can't say a word that offends my religion, but you can let this religion destroy those people.
Yeah.
And that's the American way? I don't think so.
Yeah. It's really sad.
That's not the American way. That's not what this country was founded on.
Not what it was founded on. I don't know
No.
what it is.
Well,
Yeah, but
we need to be aware of what it's to become. Because today's children are tomorrow's future. If we don't do something about this, where is that future?
right.
And the future does not depend on the name of a group, a color, a religion, a political. It depends on the rights and integrity of humanity.
Yeah, that's the
Period.
It's the dignity of humanity.
And
we are robbing women and children of their dignity.
And each and every human being, I don't care where they came from,
Right.
has a human right to be treated with dignity. Nobody's got the right to enslave them in the name of religion.
Mm-hmm.
And in the name of political correctness,
Right.
I'm not buying it. That's just not intelligent.
Yeah. People have become so overly sensitive that we can no longer have intellectual conversations.
So then we can't call Warren a pervert because it would be politically incorrect because he's a prophet of a religion.
Depends on the religion, I think.
Is that where we're going?
Yeah. It could be, well, he is a man who is...
Well, it doesn't make any difference. If the truth is the truth.
What label do you call it? How do you label it in a way that doesn't hurt somebody's feelings? Forget the little girls, not just the ones that he personally raped, all of the little girls that he created, that he trafficked.
Yes. And let's not call him a pervert because he's a prophet. These people respect him. We're insulting their prophet. That is not intelligent. Let's call him what he is.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, in the report they don't even call him a rapist because that's too strong of a word. And he was a rapist.
Of course he was.
Yeah.
He was raping children.
He was
Period.
raping children. Well, you can
And,
call whatever you
and
want.
if you phrase the name politically correct, then we have to turn our back on that because we're not here to stand our little feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And if we turn our back on that, we're a sick nation.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to analyze what's politically correct. What's politically correct is human rights.
Yes.
What's politically correct is the dignity of every human being. What's politically correct is their right to live in this country without fear of being enslaved through their ignorance or literally, physically, sexually, or any other way. And we have an obligation to protect them.
Yeah, and how many people in this country are right now spiritually enslaved? Because all of that is being justified in the name of religion.
It's not justifiable.
Yeah. So they're spiritually enslaved. I think there are a lot of people who are spiritually enslaved that have no idea that they are.
That's right.
Because they're so convicted by their beliefs.
It's just plain wrong.
Yeah.
Honesty should be out there, and proper education should be on the television set for everybody to see. No, really.
There's enough money in it. They only show stuff on television that has enough money in it.
Well, what's selling on television right now, I think is
irresponsible.
irresponsible.
Yeah.
The Learning Natural channel selling this polygamy, I think, is
I
irresponsible.
agree.
Totally irresponsible.
Very
They're not the only channel that's irresponsible, but they're definitely irresponsible. And that is sad. This is a great country. We have wonderful people in this country, and a whole lot more wonderful people coming up with our children. We have an obligation to every child of every color, of every theology, philosophy, and non-theology, to protect and educate them.
Yeah.
And we can't get out of that obligation by skirting around a little word called politically correct.
Yeah.
Not gonna fly.
Yeah.
Not gonna fly.
Yeah, and it's just time. It is time. I think enough of us have decided that it's just time. A lot of women are coming out of the closet, coming out from under wraps, coming out from the woodwork and saying, that's time to start talking.
It is time.
We are tired of being shushed.
It's past time.
Yeah, and it's time to talk about sex, it's time to talk about religion, it's time to talk about politics, it's time to talk about human rights. All the things we have been told that we're not allowed to talk about, we're going to start talking about it.
We need to talk about it. If no one's going to protect us, then I guess we're going to have to start educating people so they can protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we need to teach our children. My heart breaks for all of those imprisoned by polygamy, because that's where I came from. I understand that ignorance, I understand that fear, I understand that slavery. And I would do anything to see that the next generation didn't go through that. But I have not that power.
Right.
And it breaks my heart to have a government choose to ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll look across the pond and find a lesser problem, but we won't take care of our own people.
Yeah.
And this, in the land of the free, the home of the brave.
Yeah. We were not very brave. We were so afraid of hurting each other's feelings.
Oh, we're very brave. Look out for politically correct. You can knock you clear off your pedestal.
Yeah.
This in America. This is my country. I love this country. But I love it even more if it stands up for the basic constitutional rights we allegedly have in this country.